This video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com. Hey there folks, welcome back to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz, and today I'm bringing to you a Kickstarter preview of Centershaft, Fallen Elements. Now this is by Not My Eyeball Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, goes for about 12 and up when it comes to the age, and it's also about 30 to 60 minutes, so roughly close to an hour to playtime. Now in this game, you're a group of adventurers, specifically 4 of them, who are going into this massive labyrinth, okay? And you're trying to find all sorts of kinds of treasure and different kinds of things, but very specifically, you're trying to find 4 different elements. It's a race to the finish as you try to be the first person to find all 4 different element tokens and actually get yourself out of the labyrinth while surviving. To start with, you're going to choose from 1 of 4 different characters. You're going to take that character board. You're going to take a death right token. You're also going to take 3 health points, and you're going to take your miniature. Now, keep in mind, this is all pre-production. There's several things in this game that could be subject to change, and that includes the pawns that we have, because they haven't gotten the miniatures made for this yet, for the sarcophagus tokens, for the actual characters, but just keep that in mind as we go along. This is not final product. You're all going to start out on the center shaft, and from that way, you're going to make your way into the labyrinth. Now, each player is going to get a chance to set up the board. It is kind of a tile laying game, and you're going to set it up according to the actual setup rules. Each side's got to connect properly to each other's side. The path actually has to work logically with the rest of the labyrinth, okay? And then the warp tiles are going to be set out, and then you're going to set out the element tiles. And you're also going to set out the gemstones on each element tile. You're going to place the sarcophagus tokens on each sarcophagus tile, and then you're going to decide what kind of movement you want to play in the game, because in the game you get 2 different types. You have an ability to actually choose your style of movement, whether that's 3, 6, 9, or 12, and you use the little movement tokens for that, or you get to roll a d12, and that's going to determine your movement. So you have a choice there, and I like the idea that they actually gave you a choice in that. Personally, I think I like the strategic better, but now let's look at the different kinds of tiles. First off, you have your sarcophagus tile. Once you land there, you're able to use the reference card, and you're going to roll a die, and it's going to determine what actually happens to you from there. You're going to get bonuses. You could possibly get some damage. You could teleport. There's also warp tiles on the board that allow you to go from one end of the board to the other, and they're going to work logically. So if you enter into the number 1 warp tile, you'll come out the number 2. There's also the possibility of using the center shaft as a warp tile, and what that means is the last person to take their first turn in the game is going to be able to go and use that center shaft warp tile, and then again you use the reference card and determine where you're going to end up from there. There's also tentacle tiles in the game, and what this means is there's one with a coil, okay, and if you go into that one, it's going to stop you cold right there in the middle, and then you're going to lose the rest of your turn. And then you also have an open tentacle tile where you have to make sure you have enough movement points to get past that entire tile. There's also an arrow trap tile, so if you enter into there, there's arrows pointed at you. If somebody else goes and touches the pressure plate tile, then the arrow trap tile actually activates, and you take damage from there if you're in there. Now there's also element tiles on the board that represent your main goals. What you're trying to do is you're going into those tiles, you actually, the minute you enter into the middle, you're able to take an element token, and if there is also a gem there, you can take that as well. Now the gems themselves are going to be used for offensive abilities in the game. Now if that gem works with your character's affinity on your player board, that means the same color as that gem, well, you only have to enter onto the tile to attack another character. But if it doesn't, you have to be adjacent to them. Now each round you're going to be pulling 1 card from the event deck, and you're going to resolve what's on it. Now the event deck can contain anything from traps, enemy characters, items that can help you along the game, like shields and weapons and first aid kits and thieving rings, which are pretty fun. There's also a dimensional shift card in the game, which actually is one of the best parts of the game, actually, is because what you're able to do with it is you're able to take 1 tile from the board and following the same tile placement rules, move it over to a completely different area on the board. And so in that way, the labyrinth is constantly changing as you go. Now there's also hazard cards that come out that could potentially damage your character if you don't have something to deal with them. There's also trap cards that come out that you have to deal with, where you actually have to roll a die and resolve what happens on the card. And then there are enemy cards that come out, and this can be anything from a shaman native or the actual infernal shadow itself. Now, each enemy card you deal with, you have to roll a die and resolve what's on the card, but at the same time, if it has something to do with an affinity that your character works with, then you're able to add +2 to your die roll. So it's a nice little way of kind of counterbalancing the die roll itself. But don't worry, even if you lose the attack on that enemy card, you then take control of the infernal shadow, and that's where a little bit more of this take that comes into the game. Yeah, you do it with some of the item cards, but the infernal shadow can be pretty brutal. She will come onto the board, and she will move not space to space like your normal character movement. She moves tile to tile, and you're going to roll a d6 to determine her movement. And once she enters into another tile with a character on it, she attacks them. And it doesn't matter how many are on there, she'll attack all of them simultaneously. Now, here's the kicker. If you have gemstones, she can turn those gemstones against you. So it's kind of a way for the other players in the game to counterbalance the fact that you have gemstones. They can actually use that shadow to wipe you out, possibly. Now, if you don't have any gemstones, she basically just teleports you to another part of the board. Now, if you lose all of your hit points, the game's not over for you, okay? It's not player elimination, which is really, really nice, and I really like that aspect of the game. You get put back onto the Centershaft hub tile, you take the Deathrite token that was given to you in the setup, and you place it where you died. Now, here's the kicker. Anybody else in the game can come along and pick up your loot that you lost, because you're going to lose all your loot, but you also have the opportunity of picking up that loot as well, right? So you can always go back to the tile you were at, pick up that Deathrite token, and get back a lot of what you lost. Now, your element tiles are gone. You have to go back and get those, but like your cards and other things, that you can still get those back. I really love the fact that they put that in the game, because at that point now, you're not sitting here worried that, oh, I'm out if I lose all my points. No, there's still the hope of coming from behind and actually winning the game. Now, remember, the first person to gain all 4 element tiles in the game and to get back to the main Centershaft hub is the winner. So in that way, it's very much like an Indiana Jonesesque race, okay? You're basically vying for control of different element tokens, trying to get these gemstones to be able to attack each other with, to take that game. There's a nice massive amount of items in the game that will help you along the way, that will mitigate a lot of the take that in the game, and mitigate some of the issues with the traps and things like that. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, if this game sounds like it might be for you, go check it out on Kickstarter. It comes out early October. I think October 6th they're shooting for. Definitely go take a look. Highly recommend it. Thank you so much again for watching the Dice Odyssey videos. I'm Kaz. Go check the game out on Kickstarter. And also keep this in mind, we're going to be doing a giveaway at some point, so please subscribe so you can be entered in when we actually get around to doing that. It's going to be fairly soon. So thanks again. You have a blessed day, and game away.